before the time. Because if you, as het te naam aan jou mond is, dan is daar verskriklike ego. Ja. Jy moet hom meer so hou.
Please follow up on my behalf. Can I write? No,
Tina, most of the time the members they are staff, and when we pick up the tape, we follow the sheet, and we can never steal someone's skills. We don't. I know. If it's one of us, yes, we pick it up and take it to the
cover on as a BMW cover.
Okay, your names and your number, right? So that they can contact you. I'll give it to production head. Yeah?
Oh, 76. My number, no.
Protection and stop.
It's very urgent.
Madam Speaker,
We'll now have a moment of silent prayer and meditation. May we be seated? Order, honorable members. I would like to announce that questions that were transferred from written to oral replies and placed on the question paper have since been removed in the question paper upon receipt of the reply in terms of Rule 146, subsection 2. Consequently, there will be no additional 30 minutes to today's question session. I've also been informed that the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition is not available to answer questions today. The Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition has requested that questions number 356, 333, 316, and 352 stand over in terms of Rule 144, subsection 1, subsection A, and 144, subsection 2. The questions will therefore stand over, and these questions will be scheduled in consultation with the Programming Committee. The first item on today's question paper is questions addressed to ministers in Cluster 5 Economics. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. Parties have given an indication of which questions their members wish to pose as supplementary questions. Adequate notice was given to parties for this purpose. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for supplementary questions, the principle of fairness, among others, have been applied. When all the supplementary questions have been answered by the executive, we will proceed to the next question on the question paper. The first question has been asked by the Honorable C.M. Piri to the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. The question is about the audit findings of his department and mitigation strategies. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the Honourable Piri for the question. The weaknesses identified in the department are significant and structural. We should not underestimate the scale of the problem we face in bringing this department into financial and operational viability. This is also not something that is going to be done quickly, but given a term in government, I believe we can bring the department and its entities into a full, clean audit coupled with a healthy financial outlook. It's also important to highlight the financial problems that we face, including an overdraft of more than 3 billion rand. The Property Management Trading Entity, or PMTE, is technically bankrupt. Client departments owe us nearly 14 billion rand. Current and former members of Cabinet and current and former members of Parliament owe us approximately 4 million rand, and it is just simply not sustainable. Since the advent of the 7th administration, we've been hard at work to understand the nature of these weaknesses that have been raised by the AGSA, and these include non-correlation between expenditure and performance for PMTE, no improvement shown on implementing the matters raised on material irregularities, financial losses due to weaknesses on project management, the backlog of infrastructure projects, and the inability to complete them on time and on budget, the weak control environment within the Independent Development Trust, and weak controls in our IT systems. This is why we've also set about to turn these around by developing a clear roadmap to improve governance and financial health. This will be led by our GRC branch and we will work with the AGSA on live auditing and to implement interim financial statements to deal with issues as they arrive. We're not going to wait until after the fact where there is little we can do about it. However, Madam Speaker, there are centres of excellence we can take pride in, like the Council for the Built Environment and the Construction Industry Development Board, which have produced satisfactory audit outcomes because they have implemented best practice in auditing standards and financial controls. Our path to clean audits, Madam Speaker, is non-negotiable. It will be tough and it will be uncomfortable for some. Last week, we convened our 5-year strategic planning session that will inform our APP, where we will hold officials accountable for what they do or what they don't do. The bold measures that we have included and will implement are building a culture of excellence, ethics, and results-based outcomes. Each person must understand what their contribution is to find solutions and not just point out problems. We are going to digitize and automate our systems to curb irregularities and inefficiencies. We will foster improved relationships with the AGSA to ensure proactive lifestyle audits are conducted and concluded, and we're going to review the structure of the department, including the life cycle of some of our entities and assets and their contribution to our objectives. We're going to ensure that interim financial statements are produced and our audit processes in the PMTE are implemented without fail. And we're going to make tender systems transparent, whereby they are open to the public and they are recorded both audibly and visually. We're going to reconfigure the PMTE into a property trading entity that is able to generate revenue to be used in the building and maintenance of social infrastructure. And lastly, we're going to partner with Infrastructure South Africa to develop a model for infrastructure management division, which will deal with projects that are the most severe delayed and that we will complete them on time and on budget. I thank you.
You have outlined that PMTE is bankrupt, but my question is the plan of the entity viability to perform on its mandate, as well as to ensure that the department is able to deliver on its KPIs and of its program and project. But you went further to say you had a strategic planning session last week. Can you outline a bit of the programs that have been brought forward to improve on the PMTE? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable.
The PMTE in our department is the source of all problems. The problem is that for some unbeknown reason, the department has not implemented a cabinet resolution that said that the PMTE, whereby the assets of the state are ring-fenced and housed in that entity, other asset management social or human, and there is no accurate of state, and making that a South African property company is the solution. Honourable Speaker, to be able to dispose of assets where we don't need them, so that we are able to ring-fence that money so that it can be used for social infrastructure, like in schools, police stations, and clinics. This is not going to be an easy task, but government has decided this already previously, and we must implement that decision. We must begin the work of creating the South African property company. Madam Speaker, you'll be aware that I have called an advisory committee to my office, particularly on asset management, and I do hope in the next coming weeks we'll be able to announce that advisory committee. And one of the first pieces of work they will be seized with is putting us on a pathway to creating the property company for our assets. I'm confident that if we get that right, it will be a department that people don't make jokes about. Public work is a joke at times.
Thank you very much.
Celebrate.
Honorable E. Chamber.
You will be working of the department. What is the major obstacle in this regard?
Honorable Minister.
Say probably around 2 or 3 weeks, they outlined the seriousness that are. In fact, Honourable Maria, auditors themselves do not lead to service delivery outcomes. They are important in ensuring that the public's money is spent correctly. And so we will be instituting live audits, just like we've done during COVID, that when actions are done, they are audited on the spot. That interim financial statements are made available in the middle of the financial year, so that we don't have to wait until the end of the financial year when all the problems have become known and there's nothing we can do about it. But we've got our financial controls right. We've got to ensure that we digitize. There's too much paper that lies around and is easily lost. And where we do award tenders, we must make sure that it's done by prescripts of the law. It is transparent, and that's why we're also going to be making them publicly available. Audio tapes and video tapes will also be available of the tenders, so that we can comply with what the ASA requires from us. Thank you so much.
Speaker. Auditor General. Can you indicate to us what is the extent of fruitless and wasteful expenditure which has been identified for the year 2023-2024? And also, if you can indicate to us what measures have you taken since you met the Auditor General in terms of consequence management in the branches that have submitted but have a lot of fruitless and wasteful, to accelerate the submission of the financials, the PMTE branch, as well as the IDT.
Minister.
Honourable Speaker, fruitless and wasteful expenditure is something that our department cannot be known for. And fruitless and wasteful expenditure takes away from the key programs of our department. I have made it very clear to the PMTE that they will submit their financial statements by the end of this month. And thank you to you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the leeway to do so. We also appreciate, Honourable Gama, that these are inherited problems in this department. And go back to the legacy, quite frankly, of 30 years worth of mismanagement in the department that face today. So, Gama, we are doing everything we can to get the department on track. We are doing everything we can to make sure that money is spent on social infrastructure, on economic infrastructure, and that we do our steward of using public assets for public good.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And that the country is in a predicament. Service of ultramar state of what are the specific plans does the department have in place to make of these buildings? Therefore, was highlighted by the community. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
And it would probably be suited to some of the questions that come later, but let me just assist. We don't deal with school buildings. That's a provincial competency, and so I think it would be better placed towards the provincial government in the Eastern Cape. But let me say this. I think that there is a discussion to be had, and it is something important that we are leading around, are we getting value for money in the 950 billion rand that is allocated for infrastructure in the MTEF? I think that very few people, Honourable Member, would believe that there is value for money in our infrastructure build in the country. What we are proposing is putting Infrastructure South Africa at the centre of infrastructure planning and coordination in this country. You will have seen last week we launched a project preparation fund where people, at least government departments or entities, will be able to approach us. We will fund that project preparation so that we package, plan it, and even if they want to, allow us to go to market to find additional funding. So we can solve the problems that you found, Honourable Sali, in the Eastern Cape, but we need to have further discussions internally, and if we can get it right, I'm convinced that we can deal with the issues that you've raised today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We now move to question 2, question number 297, which has been asked by Honourable T.L. Montana to the Minister of Transport. The question is about Transnet rail reform regarding the underlying policy and expected performance benefits. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. The Department relies on the White Paper on National Rail Policy, approved by Cabinet in March 2022, and the Freight Logistics Roadmap, approved by Cabinet in 2023. The rail policy makes the statement that all rail infrastructure from the top of the rail downwards will always belong to government, while everything above the rail could be utilized by the private sector and by government for both freight and passenger services. It is important to recognize that the process now followed in rail was previously followed in the case of ports, and so this policy precept is not new. In 2000, Transnet's PortNet was separated into an infrastructure entity, Transnet Ports Authority, and an operations entity, Transnet Port Terminals. The outcome led over time to considerable private sector involvement, such that currently there are 564 private operators across South Africa's ports and considerable long-term concessions where private operators have invested in new infrastructure. The licensing of these operators is facilitated by the Transnet Ports Authority through the Ports Act as the Landlord Port Authority, a model that has become the norm for 90% of global ports. With regard to question B, vertical separation will also create space for private rail operating companies to access the rail network and introduce new rolling stock, new technology and operational efficiencies that can enhance freight rail performance and reduce logistics costs for key sectors such as mining, manufacturing, and other sectors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Honourable T.L. Montana.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Minister, for the reply. Vertical integration is about ensuring each business reflects its true cost, and in this way harness efficiency gains. This works under certain conditions, but not in others. And this understanding is key to understanding the viability and profitability of each separated business. With network businesses like TFR, however, it is virtually impossible to separate or establish the true cost. Can the Honorable Minister, I know that you told me about ports. I'm interested in rail. Can the Honorable Minister share with this House the actual numbers or any due diligence that has been done which shows that the efficiency gains that will be made from vertical integration, rather vertical separation, will ensure that both the new TRIM and the TFR are fully or adequately funded and will be able to meet current and future investment requirements in the rail sector?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Montana, for the supplementary question. I think that's a very important issue, and that work is currently being undertaken by the interim rail economic regulator so that we are able to accurately determine the tariff that will be assigned to the network statement that we hope to put out later this year. Obviously, in determining the network statement, we have to take account both of Transnet's requirements and the willingness that other operators would be prepared to pay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable N.S. Kompane. Order. Honorable member, let's allow the member to ask a question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Through you, how is it envisaged to ensure that Transnet infrastructure management becomes a going concern and a financially viable entity?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Nkopane. It is envisaged that the Transnet Rail Infrastructure Manager will become the custodian of a rail network for a multi-operator environment with, we hope, significant higher volumes of rail. The expected growth in train operating concessional companies and the concomitant increase in rail volumes will generate primary revenue for TRIM through access fees structured on a full cost recovery basis. These access fees will be regulated by the Economic Authority, starting with the Interim Rail Economic Regulatory Committee and transitioning to the Transport Economic Regulator once this is fully established.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Blose.
No, thank you very much, Speaker. Look, the failure of government to invest in freight rail has led you to go and seek for private partners, which is a phenomenon that we have come accustomed to, that it seeks to deliberately, collapse these SOEs with the intention to privatize them. Now, Honorable Minister, do you consider that there is a body of literature that suggests that vertical separation improves efficiency or may even have negative effects?
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Honourable Member, as I indicated earlier, our own experience indicates that vertical separation can be successful, and it is our expectation in this environment where we need third-party investors in our rail infrastructure that this will fund the necessary expansions and rolling stock in congested corridors and upgrade networks and terminal facilities to accommodate growing volumes of freight. We see this as ultimately helping to put Transnet on a better financial trajectory rather than the current trajectory, which you know from our Scorpa interaction yesterday is somewhat fragile.
Thank you. Honorable S.M. Ghana.
So, Honorable Minister, you've been in the position for a while now. Are you convinced, sitting there, that enough financial resources can be found and mobilized to repair and upgrade the dilapidated railway infrastructure, including the signaling issues, in the next 2 years? If so, what is the basis of your conviction? Thanks very much.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Thanks very much, Honorable Ghana. I think both myself and Transnet are receiving a lot of unsolicited bids to participate in this third-party process. We obviously are of the view that any consideration of those bids needs to be on a level playing field. And that is the reason why we want to put out the network statement and why we want a proper private sector participation unit established under the auspices of the Development Bank of South Africa to be considering these bids, to make sure where appropriate they reach financial close, and ultimately to improve operations on our rail network.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. We now move to the third question. Question number 337 has been asked by the Honourable N.S. Maitiase to the Minister of Land Reform and Rural Development. The question is about Lower Zinguga land claim in respect of the unfulfilled payment commitments and alleged inhuman treatment by departmental officials. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. According to our records, 33 beneficiaries were paid as of 22 July 2024. However, payments to the 50 households were affected by the changes to the payment system introduced by the National Treasury. This impacted the Commission's ability to process bulk payments, resulting in delays in financial compensation to claimants. As a result, the Commission has reverted to making individual payment via the government basic accounting systems. Until a new system is fully operational, there is currently a communication plan in place where all the affected communities are engaged, including Lower Zinguga, to brief them on the requirement of the new payment system. The change in the payment process is a requirement from National Treasury and beyond the control of the Commission. Some of the beneficiaries were paid before the targeted date of 30 September 2024. The Commission regrets the inconvenience that has caused for restitution beneficiaries at large. However, there has been ongoing communication with all affected communities. Furthermore, the Commission is working closely with the National Treasury and the Director General to ensure that the system is operational as soon as possible. Once the system is available, payments to the beneficiaries will be quicker. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Honourable Maitiase.
Thank you so much, Honourable Chair. Minister, thank you for being honest and concede that you have not met the commitment you made to meet the payment of the claimants as of the 30th of September. Thank you for conceding that your department is inefficient and failing to help you. Now, we have had similar misleading replies in the past from your predecessors. Our advice to you is that avoid being misled by your staff. Ensure that you are not added on the list of a wall of shame of ministers who have failed our people. Now, seeing that you have been misled and been failed by your staff, what measures do you put in place against your failing and incompetent staff and departmental officials, and ensure that at least before the end of this year, the payment to the claimant is made?
Thank you, Honourable Member. Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. One of the reasons why the department could not meet the deadline, it is because the community, in fact, the chief in that particular community of Ezinguka, alerted the department that there were fraudulent claimants that were included in the list. So because of that, and the National Treasury identified a gap that it must be fixed for us to pay rightful claimants. It's not about misleading, it's not about joining Hall of Fame of others, it is about doing the right things.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Rara.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I don't want to assume that you have responded to my question. If it's not about misleading, what is the status of the lower Zinguka land claimants as of now? And the other land claimants in relation to their compensation?
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As things stand, Honorable Member, we are verifying, because the verification was necessitated by the fact that the fraudulent claimants were included. And now we are verifying, and also we are talking to the National Treasury so that they allow us to pay. And we believe that before the end of this year, we will pay. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Matikizela.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, the non-payment of the community of Lower Zinguka is not an isolated case. There are many similar cases throughout the country, and we know that about 5,700 claims of old order are yet to be settled. In a number of interviews recently, and again at our portfolio committee meeting, you confirmed that these will be settled in the next 3 years. Now, Minister, given the limited resources that we have as the country, which has resulted in a number of budget cuts due to slow economic growth, how are you planning to achieve this goal?
Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you to the Honorable Member. Yes, it is true. What has happened in Lower Zinguka is affecting all others in other areas. But truth is, we are going to make sure that we facilitate the payments. And then, you are right, 5,700 claims. It will be difficult to settle them in 3 years. And as I've said in the Portfolio Committee, that we can't be going to Treasury and beg for money every day. At some point, we must talk to the private sector and ask them to assist in settling these claims. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. We now move to the next question, which is question 312, has been asked by the Honorable C.N. Malimecha to the Minister of Small Business Development. The question is about the red tape reduction plans, core elements, and its implementation strategy for SMMEs. Minister.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And let me thank the Honorable Member for that.
I'm sorry, Minister. I've been corrected. There's a mistake I made. I have not asked Mr. Mngwango in the previous question. I'm sorry. Mr. Honorable Mngwango. Is there anyone taking the question on behalf of Mr. Mngwango?
Thank you.
Ukhona imani.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Minister, your department holds several government buildings that are currently abandoned and in disrepair as its assets. Given the pressing need for office space, what strategies are being implemented?
Honorable Minister. Order, honorable members. Honorable member, can you pose the right question? It looks like
Order, Speaker.
Order, honorable member.
Point of order, Speaker.
Order, honorable Ndlozi.
Point of order.
Yes, what is your point of order?
Speaker, under what rule are you saying that she must pose the relevant follow-up question? Under what rule? She posed the question, the person must answer and dismiss it as irrelevant.
Order,
there
honorable.
There is no basis in rules.
Honorable Ndlozi,
for your
thank you very
directive.
much. If you can please sit. The honorable member did hesitate and was now correcting herself. So I was just asking us to be patient because she recognized the mistake herself. Honorable member, you can proceed with your question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
If you can bring the mic closer to your mouth.
Whether given the various commitments of unfulfilled promises going back to 10 years ago in relation to the payment of the claim, he has found that officials of his department have been treating the people of Lower Zingruga through their conduct inhumanly. If not, why not? If so, what are the relevant details?
Thank you, Ma. Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister of Land Reform and Rural Development.
Honorable Speaker, I'm worried. I don't want to dismiss the member, but this question is the question that was asked by Honorable Matias. It is question number 2 from Honorable Matias. Anyway, let me assist, Speaker, that we, as I've said, we are in constant contact with the community of Zingruga, and we have since told them that by the end of this year, we will be able to settle 50 households that are outstanding. 33 have already been paid. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Now we are moving to question 312, which has been asked by Honorable C.N. Malimecha to the Minister of Small Business Development. The question is about the red tape reduction plans, core element, and its implementation strategy for the SMMEs. Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. The honorable member will remember that there's lots of initiatives that we are embarking on in order to deal with the red tape as it cuts across many sectors. Now this requires us to work with a number of departments, and we have since established intergovernmental provincial task teams in order to make sure that when we get into a particular province, we're able to look at what is it that is the red tape in the different sectors. We've established that team, and of course our focus is mainly on the red tapes against SMMEs, which is why, Honorable Madam Speaker, again, we have initiated a study that focused on the legislation first, and we have identified 29 pieces of legislation that are prohibiting meaningful participation of MSMEs in our economy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Malimecha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, Gamon Degamo Batuval, Laulu, Brahweb, Betana, Balauri, Melau, Lemelawana, Yevilweo, Ibashidi South Zenagara economy. Question Ivauri, how does the red tape reduction framework simplify business regulations and compliance to ensure that companies and entrepreneurs can focus on growth, innovation, and job creation? In other ways, grow the business. Thank you, Minister.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. In the red tape reduction framework, we are clearly articulating the areas in the pieces of legislation that we see as the obstacles to the growth of the MSMEs. Now, if you identify all of those, then you begin to say what particular clause is a challenge to SMMEs, and therefore come up with a recommendation to say this particular department or sphere must be able to address these challenges by repealing or amending a legislation. We are ourselves as the department amending the Businesses Act, which within it, we're trying to make sure that we simplify the process of licensing by digitalizing some of the processes in order to make sure that there's alignment both at national, provincial, and local level. And that will therefore make it easier for MSMEs to say as they register, there's basic requirements that they must provide, but at the same time, it will create commonalities amongst the municipalities and the provincial departments that you are working with. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable S. Singh.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. To the Minister, what is the time frame for the red tape reduction measures to be finalized and operational, considering that it is 10 years that this department is in existence and that these challenges were known at the outset? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Am I audible, Madam Speaker?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you so much. Indeed, the department just turned 10 this year. Now, we do understand as lawmakers that the process to develop a legislation in this country does not take less than 3 to 5 years. Now, we have the Businesses Act, which is one of the documents or the legislation that I spoke about earlier to say it has some clauses that are red tapes to MSMEs. This is the document that I said we are amending. It was only transferred to the department in 2020. So yes, the department is 10 years, but the legislation was brought to us in 2020, which is why we are finalizing the policy and the bill that we have committed to this House that will bring before the end of the financial year. It will not take 6 days or 6 months, because even the 29 pieces that I'm talking about requires extensive consultation and engagement as they either talk to repealing of existing legislations or introductions. But of course, the reason we set up the inter-provincial task teams is to make sure that when necessary, for example, through the Department of COGTA, they can be able to issue certain directives to municipalities that must enable the MSMEs in their local spheres to be able to participate. Different departments are also doing the same. If you look at the challenge that people are faced with in relation to the illegal ownership by foreigners of Spaza shops, the Department of Home Affairs has passed through Cabinet the white paper on immigration and citizenship. And all these initiatives are meant to deal with the red tape at the different spheres. So the time frames, unfortunately, I cannot say tomorrow because they're dependent again in the programming by Parliament and the extensive consultation that we must undertake. But we are committed, hence we are working jointly as government nationally, provincially, and at local level. We do hope that in the next few years we'll be able to defeat the challenge that we're faced with.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Ms. MC Mafagane.
Thank you, Speaker. Minister, many small, medium, micro enterprises have expressed frustration at the level of red tape. They must negotiate access to financial and incubation support services from your department. It has come to our attention that some SMMEs are complaining of middlemen, intermediaries, that charges unreasonable interest rates to vulnerable SMMEs for them to access funding from your department. Does your department use intermediaries to facilitate funding of SMMEs? Who are these intermediaries? What is the amount of funding that was facilitated by these intermediaries in the 2023-2024 financial year? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much once more, Honourable Member. All DFIs in this country utilizes intermediaries, all. Whether they're going to go to the big ones or the ones that are supporting MSMEs. Honourable Member, you're not going to hear this.
Order, Speaker.
Order, Honourable Member. Minister, can you take your seat? Honourable Reddy, what is the point of order?
Honourable Speaker, I just need to know what is
MSMEs? Are we referring to the MSC crews? Or what are we referring to?
Honorable Reddy, that's the question for clarity. It's small, medium enterprises. Honorable Minister, can you proceed? Honorable Minister, can you proceed?
Yeah, Honorable Reddy. Micro, small, medium enterprises, which is what used to be SMMEs, we've just aligned with international standards. So every time I refer to MSMEs, you must know that's the category that we're talking to. But
thank you very much. I think you not only clarified, Honorable Reddy, you have clarified the number of members in the House. You can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Now to the Honorable that asked the question on intermediaries, although the question is not related to the main question, but I will provide response. As I was saying earlier, all DFIs are using intermediaries. These are allowed in law in line with the National Credit Regulation Act that is in place. There's certain percentages that they're allowed to charge. But now we have realized that for the MSMEs, it means we are transferring the cost to them if they are to pay 30–40% interest, which is why we're in a process of reviewing the policy to say those that will be delivering on our behalf, there's a particular percentage that they can't go beyond. There's many of them, and because the question was is not linked to the earlier one, I will therefore send you the details in terms of the names and how much has been dispersed through those intermediaries. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable P. N. Luthuli.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Minister, while the goal of eliminating the red tape is not to make it easier to SMEs to operate, it can also create opportunity for corrupt practices. Therefore, striking a balance is crucial. What transparency measures are in place to ensure that the effort to reduce red tape do not end up facilitating the corrupt and undermining the very purpose of the streamlining the system? I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much, Honourable Luthuli, for that question. Indeed, every time government to introduce a good deed, there are those that want to undermine the strategic intent of the deeds that we are bringing. So in trying to address the challenges that are faced by MSMEs, others will want to exploit the opportunity. But we are banking on the corruption practices that we've already put in place to say if we digitize the system and therefore we reduce many individuals as humans in certain aspects of the value chain of the work that we do, we'll be able to minimize those. But there's certain things we can't be able to do away with. For example, what we have observed in many areas wherein we're complaining about illegal traders, you find out that when you go to the municipality or to the particular shop, this person has a permit to operate this business, and the permit is registered under Stella. When you come in, it is not Stella, it is a non-South African at times, but this person is renting this permit from the South African. So we are continuing to engage with all citizens to be first loyal to their own country for the benefit of the next generations, but also to make sure that we protect the local economic development initiatives that we're trying to bring. Because when we try to do ease of business for MSMEs, we're trying to make sure that people can create jobs. We're trying to make sure that we involve everyone in our society, but those that are devils, they will always find a way. And this is why we are calling upon all the members of this House and everyone who's listening to us to make sure that they remain loyal to our country. At least they owe our founding fathers for democracy that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. We now move to question 313, which has been asked by the Honourable N. Maduna to the Minister of Transport. The question is about the steps taken by the department and its entities to enhance rail and road safety and intensify awareness. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Research conducted in 2014 into the causes of fatal road crashes revealed that human error, including distractions such as texting while driving, inexperience, speeding, jaywalking, and drunken driving, was responsible for 73% of accidents, the condition of roads and the environment for 12%, and vehicle factors for 14% of accidents. A study of the report of the Road Safety Regulator 2023-2024 reveals a similar pattern with human factors causing over 65% of accidents reported. What these statistics suggest is that a focus on changing human behavior, coupled with better monitoring and enforcement of both road and rail regulations, would significantly reduce accidents. Current safety strategies include promoting responsible user behavior, repair, maintenance, and construction of infrastructure, delivering effective safety management, improving the quality of accident data and knowledge management, and ensuring better first responders to accidents. If we are to honestly reflect on our implementation of our road safety strategies, I think, Honourable Member, we would need to agree that our approach is both uneven and inconsistent, with the Road Traffic Management Corporation indicating that it is difficult to get cooperation both amongst government and non-governmental entities. Accordingly, the Transport Ministry is of the opinion that it is necessary to review the implementation of the current road accident and rail strategies with a view to putting more emphasis on consistent awareness campaigns through media, direct outreach, and advertising to change public behavior, maximizing the visibility of law enforcement officers and working towards ensuring policing on a 24-hour, 7-day basis, working with provinces to extend the use of road monitoring technology to high accident zones on provincial roads, working with provinces to standardize and improve road incident management systems in response to accidents and their aftermath, and improving the coordination between government departments and civil society so that we work together at every level to change behavior, promote safety, and overcome fragmentation. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable N. Maduna.
Ngiyabonga, Somlo. My follow-up question to the capable minister with more than 20 years experience in executive is that what is the approach will the department take to ensure that Weighbridges are functional and that the law enforcement is deployed to ensure that road safety is complied with to improve road safety? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I think that there are three strategies that we are employing. The first is the construction and upgrading of existing weighbridges on the N1, N3, and N4 to the value of 500 million rand, which SANRAL is currently undertaking. The second is to improve self-regulation amongst the trucking industry through the promotion of a national overload strategy. And thirdly, to work with provincial governments to assess all weighbridges that are under the control of provincial road authorities and assist provinces to develop a plan to gradually upgrade and ensure that these weighbridges are in a good state of repair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable C.H.H. Hansinger.
Thank you, Speaker. Minister, the data in the yearly RTMC State of Road Safety reports is based solely on fatal crashes, ignoring injuries and associated crashes with no fatalities. These reports, therefore, do not reflect reality, and the data used is not entirely representative. In the railway safety regulator records both deaths and injuries in rail safety reports. However, derailments are responsible for approximately 30% of rail incidents, which is a cause for alarm. How, Minister, are you going to fix this?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. Honorable Hansinger, I think we can agree that whatever measurement you use, road accidents are costing us over 11,000 lives a year and 3% of our gross domestic product. Better enforcement and better public education will give us a much better outcome. I think the current situation where we only do sustained public education at the time of the festive season and over long weekends doesn't consistently change driver behavior. Similarly, a situation where we only have regular monitoring of our roads during those periods also doesn't ensure that we have proper enforcement. And that is why I'm putting the emphasis on ensuring that we are monitoring and enforcing 24/7, 7 days a week. And this is a matter that we have to work with provincial authorities on. With regard to rail, the primary cause of derailment is the bad state of our rails and the lack of signalling. And we have to undertake substantive investments in our rail network in order that we can avoid these derailments and we can restore signalling. And this is one of the reasons why we require third-party participation together with government financing to improve the state of our rail infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable TTS Kupega.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo ohloniphekile. Honorable Minister, what is the department's strategy to reduce level crossing accidents? And what is the department's budget provision in the medium-term expenditure framework to deal with level crossing accidents? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kubeka. I will give you the budget allocation. I don't know that offhand, but I do know that the rail safety regulator works with communities, with scholar transport vehicles, and with other public transport vehicles to try and highlight the importance of obeying safety rules at level crossings. Because one of the things we understand is that communities and drivers have got used to the fact that there haven't been trains operating and they take chances on level crossings. And I think that in the past year we've seen 2 terrible tragedies with scholar transport vehicles on level crossings. I think it's next week or the week after, the portfolio committees of transport and education are having a joint meeting so that we can talk about promoting safety on scholar transport vehicles, which is fundamental if we're going to save the lives of our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Blose.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Now, Minister, you say that part of the research that you've been doing says that the quality of our roads actually contributes to the accidents on the roads. Now, what is the capacity of the state to maintain its own roads? Because taking these things out to tender opens the door for extortionists who have got no interest in maintaining our roads, but they just want business interest in tenders. Does the state have its own capacity to maintain its own road and rail safety?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. SANRAL has got extensive road development and road maintenance projects which are well executed and generally fairly well managed from a project management perspective. Where I think we have a lot of difficulties is with regard to the use of the provincial conditional grant. And there we have two problems. The one problem is, as you say, problems with project management and involvement of those who would be seeking opportunities in an illegal manner in road construction. But we also have a problem with regard to minor works, that many municipalities and provincial road construction authorities no longer have yellow fleet. We are in the process of establishing a working group with SALGA. And part of the purpose of that is to make sure that we effectively utilized the municipal infrastructure grant to manage municipal roads better, and also to apply to National Treasury for permission to utilize that grant to purchase yellow fleet so that minor maintenance works can be done in-house. Thank you very much.
Question number 296 has been asked by the Honourable Ghana to the Minister of Transport. The question is about steps the Department is taking to improve public transportation safety, particularly in underserved areas, and to address rising taxi and bus accidents. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Ghana. The public transport strategy provides a broad framework for the development of sustainable transport systems through integrated planning and aims to involve both provinces and municipalities in improving public transport connectivity and making sure that factors like transport availability, travel time, frequency of connections, and accessibility to key destinations are available to those both in urban and outlying areas. From the perspective of our department, we also believe that a cheap, reliable, and safe rail system must form the backbone of the transport system for both people and goods. The Honourable Member would be aware that rail and station infrastructure were severely damaged during the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa has begun important work on recovering 31 out of 40 priority lines and almost 300 stations which are being returned to service. The revitalization of the passenger rail system will mean that more affordable and safe public transport options are available to working people who already spend a large portion of their income on transport. Ongoing maintenance of our national, provincial, and municipal roads is also vitally important in the quest for creating safer driving conditions for buses, taxis, and in fact all motorists. In this regard, SANRAL is currently busy with major upgrades on the N2 and the N3 aimed at decongesting these roads, as well as on the infamous Moloto Road that has taken a heavy toll of human life over the decades. As I already mentioned in the previous question, we are setting up a working group with SALGA to support municipalities to access and utilize the municipal infrastructure grant for road maintenance and for the purchase of yellow fleet. We are currently reviewing the National Road Safety Strategy to make sure that it is fit for business and that it ensures that we change driver behavior, and we also ensure that traffic policing becomes a 365-day job. Effective public education will actively involve all actors in the transport sector including bus and taxi owners, operators, and drivers, all of whom must take greater responsibility for their behavior. Discussions are ongoing with provincial and municipal authorities to see that the policing of our roads is done on a 24-hour basis, as the periods during which most accidents occur are early in the morning, late at night, and of course on weekends. The taxi recapitalization strategy is also being reviewed, as the taxi industry have informed the department that the scheme is unaffordable for their members. Making vehicle finance readily available to taxi drivers and owners will remove unroadworthy vehicles from our roads and ensure compliance with licensing authorities. I thank you.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Garner.
So, Minister, thanks for your commitment in terms of the 24/7 traffic policing. So we do know that given the high number of people that are using public transport during the festive season, can you commit today that starting from the 1st of December, all the major roads that have many accidents will be policed 24/7 so that we reduce the number of lives that we lose on our roads during the festive season? Thanks very much.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Garner. What I can commit today is we're in the process of developing a festive season road safety strategy, and part of that strategy involves the utilization of the significant force of traffic officers that are stationed at the RTMC. Once we have Cabinet permission for that strategy and for the utilization of those officers to patrol relevant roads, we will inform the public further. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Sitole.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Minister, what mechanism did the department put in place to deal with unfinished construction and vandalized railway infrastructure? If any information, can you give us the relevant information? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. I think that's a new question, but let me just say that recently we gave a whole report to the National Council of Provinces on a range of road construction projects in province and within the Sunrail Group that had not been completed, and the remedial measures that we were implementing in that regard. We are happy to share that report with the Honourable Member, and I think I've already spoken about the work we're doing both in Transnet and in Spaza to recover rail that was vandalized during the COVID pandemic. Thank you very much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Madlala.
Thank you. To the Minister, the question is as follows. Many empty promises have been made to the taxi industry, and this is a very critical black-owned industry in public transportation. In terms of your revised recapitalization plan aimed at improving safety and reliability of public transportation, what is the rollout plan, and also what is the subsidization plan? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Madlala. I think the fundamental problem in the current taxi recapitalization program is that the repayments that drivers have to make are excessive. If you or I were to take a loan of 800,000, we would be paying on average between 4,000 and 5,000 a month in repayment. But the average repayment that taxi drivers are making on these vehicles is somewhere in the region of between 18 and 22,000 a month. And the consequence of that is that drivers are not able to earn enough to fully cover those repayments, and they fall rapidly into default. This is a matter that we are discussing with the industry itself, because the industry itself is interested in positioning itself as an intermediary in the process with the aim of reducing the fees. We haven't done enough work yet, but that is where we are aiming ourselves, because unless we get those repayments down for drivers, my view is that this process is going to result in the endless repossession of vehicles and indebtedness and blacklisting of drivers. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Swart.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honourable Minister, arising from your response, the ACDP shares your deep concerns expressed about the high numbers of accidents involving taxis and buses, and you alluded to the 11,000 fatalities and the loss of 3% of GDP. And this is totally unacceptable, and we as the ACDP, we trust and pray that your initiatives will succeed to reduce these figures. Have you considered, where you indicated involving broader society in change in behavior, have you considered involving faith-based organizations such as churches, firstly to speak about change in behavior of drivers, and secondly to pray for the safety of our drivers and passengers on the roads? I thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Indeed, when we speak about public education and partnerships with civil society, we would see the faith-based sector as being crucial to get the message across to the public that certain forms of behavior, which I listed in my initial response, are not appropriate when one is behind the wheel of a car. And we are firmly convinced that the faith-based sector can partner with us in assisting us to achieve our objectives. If we want to change driver behavior, the message is going to have to go out all the time through every forum. And we think that obviously the congregational nature of many of the key religions in South Africa offers us an appropriate forum for utilizing that message. Thank you very much.
Question number 314 has been asked by the Honourable Shiviti to the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. The question is about the measures to boost public and private research development investment despite departmental budget cuts. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and thanks to Honourable Shiviti for the question. A number of interventions that we are making. The first one is that our Department of Science, Technology and Innovation has a task team that has been set up under the Interministerial Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation, using a tool of what we call STI budget coordination. This task team consists of my department, National Treasury, and the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. Simply to do this, that there are a number of departments that have got budgets on science, technology and innovation. And that in order to maximize the spend and the impact, these departments' budgets needs to talk to each other and be able to be coordinated so that we are able to maximize expenditure. So this mechanism is in the process of being finalized in terms of achieving this objective of maximum budget coordination. Also, science, technology and innovation priorities also leverage support from both National Treasury and the Department of performance monitoring and evaluation through incorporation of STI priorities on both planning and budgeting regime and frameworks of government, like the Medium-Term Expenditure Committee. As a department also, the second major initiative is that we are accessing funds for science infrastructure from the budget facility on infrastructure that is run by National Treasury. We are also putting a lot of effort in mobilizing private sector investment into science, technology, and innovation in order to increase the footprint of R&D in our society. We are also continuing with what we call the Research and Development Tax Incentive that is aimed at encouraging the private sector to increase investment by giving incentives in this regard. We also have what we call the Innovation Fund, which is a public-private partnership fund aimed at catalyzing private sector co-investment into South African venture capital. The last thing, briefly, Madam Deputy Speaker, we also have got international partnerships with the European Union, for instance, which has got funds that are sourced competitively. We are also having partnerships with BRICS, including the New Development Bank, which also has got some funds that are set aside for infrastructure, as well as working with the Belt and Road Initiative of the Chinese government. These are some of the ways and means of addressing the challenge of underfunding and budget cuts that is affecting my department. Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Chiviti.
Minister, what specific measures do you plan to implement to increase research and development investment by the public and private sector as a catalyst to economic growth and industrialization, given the substantial budget reduction of your department?
The Honourable Minister.
Point of order.
Thank you, Minister. The point of order, I cannot see who it is. Honourable Ndlozi, what is your point of order?
Yeah, with respect, Honourable Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Member read the original question again, literally word by word. She repeated word by word the original question which appears in the question paper. She doesn't have a follow-up.
Honourable Ndlozi.
It's wrong. We're not
Honourable
taking
Ndlozi, please take your chair. Please take your seat. Honourable Ndlozi, the decision to decide whether it is a new question the same question rests with the presiding officer and the minister. So I will leave it to the minister to reply. It is not for members to take points of order on whether the question is now another question or that it is the same question. Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Madam Speaker. Uhlele endaweni wrong ingakho ubuza into esingazazi nje akufanele ngabe usahleli lapha.
This place that is wrong.
Uhamba nini?
Uhamba nini uya? Ayina bagadile abantu abahambayo.
Honourable.
Honourable members, could you please direct anything through the chair? Honourable Minister, please proceed, but please speak through the Deputy Chair.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, my apologies, Madam Deputy Speaker. I think that in addition to what I have said, we should also address the question, and thanks for the question, Honorable Member, is that our own spending now, we are reviewing very seriously our own spending as a department. Much as our budget is just over 8 billion rands.
Point of order, Chair.
The point of order, please indicate there at the back. Yes, please proceed with your point of order, member.
Can the Minister take a question?
That is not a point of order. Honourable Minister, please proceed.
Thank you very much. We are now focusing on a portfolio approach to say that we group our spending according to priority portfolio areas, again in order to maximize mobilization of funds and expenditure. We are also re-looking at allocating our budget as a department better in order also to identify partners that are willing to partner with us in order to increase investment. Also, as I have said, co-investment together with specific departments in particular areas. For example, the Department of Agriculture, in terms of dealing with the impact of climate change, we may work with them together, co-fund certain programs so that we are able to maximize expenditure to try and deal with the shortfalls that we have. In other words, we are trying to be innovative as the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Ramunhalo.
Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Ndlozi, is it a point of order?
Yes, Deputy Speaker. In terms of Rule 142, subsection 6, it says, and I read, a supplementary question must arise from the original question. There's a definition of supplementary question. I request with you, Speaker, to be consistent with the rules as we move on. It is out of order for a member to stand in the opportunity for a supplementary question and read the original question. You should have ruled that as out of order, and the precedence now is said that I can simply stand and in an opportunity of a supplementary question ask the original question, which is inconsistent with the rules. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Ndlozi. The fact of the matter is that if the honourable member wished to repeat the original question, it is that honourable member who is forfeiting the opportunity to ask another question. So I have ruled on it, and that is my ruling. We will now proceed. The Honourable Ramunhalo.
Thank you, Speaker. To the Honourable Minister, the committee undertook an extensive oversight and saw that undoubtedly this department has the ability to grow and diversify the South African economy, as well as making South Africa a serious player in the international science, technology and innovation world. Given the importance of this field and possibilities we possess as a world leader in these fields, is the Minister in talks with other countries as to how we can become larger players on the world stage of science, technology and innovation? And if so, could the Minister elaborate on what the talks involve?
The Honourable Minister.
Thanks, Honourable Deputy Speaker. And thanks for your positive comment to the member to realize the potential that our department has, which indeed it is true and correct. We've got fairly extensive international relations as this department. And we also undertake what we call science democracy, science diplomacy, in order to use science to strengthen our international relations. We've got extensive relations in the African continent, which is our priority globally, that as South Africa we cannot be able to develop as an island without looking at the rest of the continent. We are very active in the Science, Technology and Innovation Program of the African Union, including the whole area of supporting the AU's Agenda 2063. We also, by the way, spend a little bit of the money that we have in the continent to support what we call the Oliver Tambo South African Africa Research Chairs. And we fund quite a number of them in a number of African countries for those African countries to undertake research in the priority areas for themselves and also for purposes of collaborating amongst ourselves as African countries. As I have said, we've got extensive relations with the European Union, which has got a number of research instruments which a number of African countries actually apply for. We are also a very active member of UNESCO. The education science...
Honourable Minister, your time has expired.
Thank you very much, Honourable Madam Deputy
The third
Speaker.
supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Paulson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, the reality is that these budget cuts will continue under the GNU government, including those departments that you're going to lean on to give their budget towards research and development. So how do you plan on meeting your own National Development Plan target of 1.5% investment in research and development by 2030? 1.5% of GDP in research and development by 2030. And also, given the relatively low involvement and investment by the private sector in research and development, I know you said you're going to get increased funding from them, increased investment from them. How do you plan on stimulating that increase in research and development from the private sector? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Honourable Paulson, I think that I've actually addressed quite a number of the issues from what I have said. I have largely answered them. And if you can ask your colleagues to be a little bit more behaved, it would help for you to listen to what I'm going to say. Firstly, it's incorrect to say I'm asking my partner departments to give their research and development money to me. You didn't hear me properly. I said all departments, most of them have got money set aside for science, technology, and innovation, which they must spend in their own programs. But it's helpful if we can better coordinate that spend so that where they are double spending, we are able to realign that so that we are able to make maximum possible impact. Secondly, I haven't given up lobbying Treasury for more money. It's very clear, as the other honourable member who asked earlier, without investment into science, technology and innovation, we are in trouble even in terms of growing and developing our economy. So I will continue to lobby, and I have not given up. And the fact that we have now an interministerial committee appointed by the President on science, technology and innovation, that places us better to increase the spend on science and technology, which, by the way, is not the same as spending on my department, because we are looking at our national system of science, technology and innovation as a whole. So those are some of the measures that we are actually going to take. And welcome back. Long time no see, Honourable Paulson. Thank you.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Boshoff.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker and Honourable Minister. I think it is clear that the Department of Science and Innovation is one of those departments that if you cut spending, it's not all that visible, but in the long term, it's a huge problem. And then we have also seen that this department has a huge impact. It has the ability to spend its money, and it has the ability to account for it properly. In that sense, it's quite a good candidate for more money. Now, in your previous department, there's the very privileged 1% skills development levy, which goes to the sectoral education and training ecosystem and the skills development fund. And what I would like to know is, would you engage your previous department and the Minister of Higher Education in maybe redesigning the whole sectoral education and training landscape in such a way that maybe 50% of that 1% on the national wage bill can be invested in research and development? I thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Boshoff, for those comments and questions, which, by the way, are very helpful. We are not raising this for the first time. We were together in my committee in the 6th administration. I do wish to say to you that indeed I am engaging with a view or to have certain monies from the skills fund to be set aside for high-end skills. I am in the process of engaging on that, but the decision finally is not mine. I'll also engage the Minister of Higher Education and Training on that score. But I also do want to say, by the way, that already over the past 5 years, a number of SETAs have been funding skills programs in the CSIR. We've got a massive internship program, which is run by the Human Sciences Research Council. So what you are saying, I entirely agree with, is something that I'm going to follow. Just lastly, by the way, you will remember also that from the National Skills Fund, last year we set aside R1 billion for the presidential PhD program, which aims to take our brightest PhDs for research and postdoctoral studies in many parts of the world, so that in particular we can acquire the skills that we do not have, so that they can bring them back and work here in South Africa. Baie dankie, Agbare Boshoff.
Thank you, Minister. Question 361 has been asked by the Honourable Maree to the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. The question is asking about how the department will optimise and rationalise the portfolio of over 81,000 public properties, including repurposing, selling, leasing, or allocating underutilised assets to serve the public good. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honourable Maree, thank you for this important question. Since the 3rd of July, I have been contemplating how the state should be leveraging these assets that it owns to drive economic development and job creation. In truth, we are the single largest property owner in the country, which generates no financial return on its assets. If we did, and which we will do, we would be able to use that income to maintain our properties and invest in new schools, police stations, and hospitals. In order to do this, the department will repurpose and reposition the PMTE as a viable and efficient vehicle to deliver comprehensive value creation through the state immovable asset portfolio. Our intention is to direct private sector investment projected at over 10 billion rand in the next term of this administration within the state property portfolio. This will allow the PMTE to deliver proper management services and become an income-generating entity, which means we can reprioritise our budget elsewhere, such as expanding the EPWP program or boosting infrastructure development. The formation of this entity is crucial to ensure any revenue earned through rentals or disposals in property remains within the company for onwards investment. Honourable Maree, we also need to be realistic. The state does not need to own or can financially afford to own 81,000 properties and 5 million hectares of land. Where properties have no use to the department, clients, or other spheres of government, or cost more than they generate, disposing of these properties while keeping the revenue earned from the disposal would go a long way into reducing the 3 billion rand overdraft and be better spent on infrastructure projects. A perfect example of this is the Telkom Towers, with approximately R1 billion sunk into that project with nothing to show for it. It could make far more economical sense to dispose of that asset and get it off of our books rather than spending millions each year in trying to secure it. Let the private sector come in and put its own resources into helping us with these buildings. Assets must be made to sweat, meaning they must not just sit idly by, but generate income from them, not only for revenue, but to provide more funds for infrastructure, maintenance and upkeep. Where asset use is not optimized, we will investigate whether there is a need for this property or whether it should be disposed of. We're also not afraid to commit some of our assets to pilot projects. For example, land owned by our department in and around small harbours should be piloted through triple Ps. Many of these small harbours sit in a state of disrepair, where instead they could become hubs for the local economy. Communities can be uplifted through jobs and infrastructure development in these areas. Next month, I look forward to announcing a pilot project where we will seek proposals from the public on a number of buildings that are either not being used or in a state of disrepair. Madam Speaker, this is how we turn South Africa into a construction site and use public assets for public good. Thank you so much.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Marquee.
Minister, could you clarify to whom these identified properties will be disposed of or leased to, and what conditions must these entities meet to qualify for access to these assets?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Marquee. Our first priority is to try and seek collaboration with other government departments, entities, or local municipalities, particularly where land and buildings can be used for social housing. That is our first priority, and if we can get that right, we are more than willing to make those land and buildings available. Where they make strategic sense to dispose of those assets, we will do so that we can generate revenue and use that for social infrastructure. Where there is also the ability to call on the private sector to give us ideas through a request for proposals, we will do so as well. But the simple truth is, Honourable Marquee, the department cannot continue to carry the burden of 81,000 properties when there are declining budgets that are given to our department for maintenance. Coupled with that, we have client departments that owe us 14 billion rand. We simply cannot be required to produce services to clients while they don't pay for us. I think that there's a discussion to be had around devolving some of the power that resides in our department to client departments to manage their own infrastructure and maintenance needs going forward. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Nkosi.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Minister, what is the plan of the department to improve revenue streams from immovable assets of government to ensure that it serves the public good and is able to fund the maintenance and further development of property portfolio? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Nkosi. That's an excellent question, because right now this department is not an income-generating department. If any other property asset company was run like ours, we would have long been liquidated. So we need to look at where's the opportunity to generate income from high-value assets, and the department certainly owns that, and where we can repurpose them, where we can repackage them, and where we can partner with the private sector to generate annuity returns, that is a priority for us. But where it makes sense to dispose of those properties, we must be realistic about doing so. What we've seen, particularly in suburban areas, is that a number of these properties are either derelict because they're not being used, or they've been overtaken. And they then contribute to crime in communities. And it is unfair that we inflict that on them just because we are unable to maintain or secure our properties. If we are able to start generating income, if we're able to start generating revenue like any other property asset business would, we can take that money and put it into building schools, building hospitals, maintaining police stations. No police officer or no nurse should have to work in some of the conditions that they currently do because we are unable to afford the maintenance. No prisoners should be sitting in some of the horrific conditions that we have seen of late. But we need to start generating our own income if we're not going to get more income or more grants from National Treasury. Thank you very much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Reddy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for that response. In the light of South Africa's pervasive homelessness and the constitutional imperative to provide adequate housing, why is the majority of the department's 81,000 properties left idle and empty while millions of South Africans are without a roof over their heads? We just read today that 388 buildings owned by Public Works have been hijacked when these buildings could be used to house homeless people in this country. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Reddy. That is not true that the majority of the 81,000 buildings are derelict or abandoned. So I don't know where you got that information from. The reality is that also we need political parties to stop encouraging people from invading buildings and invading land. That is a massive problem that we face in this country. And so I would ask that you would join us in saying that people should not invade buildings, they should not invade land, and that we must work with local municipalities to ensure that where homelessness exists, that we are able to repackage and repurpose those buildings. But if they are invaded, we now have to go to court to go and get them out, and that is incredibly expensive and difficult. But I will say that there is one city that is dealing with homelessness in a very effective way, and that is the city of Cape Town. It's the only city in the country that has spent 250 million rand for facilities for homeless people to be able to have a dignified existence, be able to go through social relief, be able to get access to home affairs, and that is the city of Cape Town. That's why we were able to get an eviction at the castle so quickly, because of the work that the city of Cape Town does here, and I think that there's a lot that we can learn from them. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question has been allocated to the EFF. We have not received a name, but it is the EFF's opportunity.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. Minister McPherson. One of the immediate pressing needs is the plight of students in inner cities, whose accommodation has been leased out to dubious characters who milk the students. The question to you is, Minister, can you repurpose these properties in inner cities for purposes of accommodating TVETs and university students to free them from the dubious characters who take money from the Department of Higher Education and subject students under unbearable, inhabitable conditions under which they cannot study and fulfill their university tenure? Can you please ensure that by the end of this year, these properties are repurposed for that objective? Thanks so much, Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I think we must be careful about making timelines definitive, because it was the Honourable Member's leader who said 5 years ago that he wanted to build a private school in Alexander, and he said that if we don't build that school in the next 5 years, don't re-elect us next time, because we would be useless. And I think that that was a very prophetic statement by the Honourable Malema. So
Honourable Minister, please take your chair. Please take your seat. There's a point of order. Honourable Minister, please take your seat.
Much.
Honourable Paulson.
Deputy Chair, Deputy Speaker, sorry, how relevant is that nonsense that he just spewed to the question that was asked of him?
Honourable Paulson, that is not a point of order. Honourable Minister, please proceed.
I think I've said all I needed to. Thank you so much.
We now proceed to question number 298, which has been asked by the Honourable Gama to the Minister of Transport. The question is asking whether the private sector investments in ports and railways has materialised as anticipated. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Gama, for the question. Through the Transnet National Ports Authority, Transnet has been engaged in crowding in private sector investments in the port system, and currently there are 566 private terminal operating agreements across the entire port system. I've developed some tables for you, Honourable Gama. I think it will be clumsy to read them in detail here, but let me say that the first table has the most recently concluded Section 56 concessions by TNA with the private sector, and it includes 6 terminal agreements that were signed between 2013 and 2022 that cover Richards Bay, Durban, Cape Town, and Saldanha. We then, I've developed a table for you, which I thought you would also be interested in, of 4 projects which are going to be concluded in the current financial year, 3 in Richards Bay and 1 in the Port of Durban. And the last one is 11 Section 56 concessions that are in different stages of development and will be proceeding to the market shortly. Thank you very much.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Gama.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. It would be profound indeed if you have 566 port terminal operators in South Africa. I look forward to see the details that you talk about. You need to be careful that your people don't manage you with misinformation. Recently, it has also been announced that our biggest container terminal, which is at the Durban Container Terminal, will soon be handed to a small international container terminal operators. And there's also noises that are being made about the introduction of private sector players in the rail space. Are these actions an admission of the failure of Transnet and the coalition government to manage our port and rail infrastructure? If not, why are these assets being managed for failure, given that since 2019, they are showing spectacular poor performance?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, Honourable Gama, I guess the rewriting of history continues from yesterday's SCOPA meeting. But let's agree with you that indeed it is entirely true that the Transnet freight rail system is underperforming in the wake of the COVID pandemic due to vandalism. And also, you may recall a certain rail contract where there were complexities and we don't yet have delivery of the full 1,000 locos. So, yes, indeed, Transnet is operating under difficulties, but they are a going concern, and we will proceed with the vertical separation, and we will proceed with bringing in third-party participation. Thanks very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Selamulela.
Thank you very much. Honourable Minister, Of course, understanding that some of these challenges that these entities are facing are historic and find themselves squarely in the hands of some amongst us here. I may want you to really share with us and make us understand as to what are the necessary and required legislative reforms and regulations that may be required to operationalize and establish public-private partnership in the port and rail space. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, for the supplementary question. The private sector participation that I was referring to in the primary question was conducted in terms of the existing Public Finance Management Act and other legislative precepts such as the Preferential Procurement Policy and the Companies Act. Obviously, we are also setting up an independent transport economic regulator, which we think will be very important for determining the tariff when we introduce third-party operators on the rail network. Thank you very much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Blose.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Now, Minister, as part of investments in the ports and rail infrastructure, we remember that sometime in 2018, the President promised to build a speed train. So now the question is, has the President actually mandated you to build that speed train? And then can you give us timelines for delivery? Thank you very much.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. That's a very important question. So the National Rail Master Plan is currently in development. That master plan will lay out the development of rail over the next 20 years. What is included in that rail master plan is high-speed rail between towns and rapid rail within towns. Because as I've already explained, we see rail as being the backbone of the public transport system for people and for goods. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Mabena.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Minister, we're very encouraged that government's approach towards the private sector participation in government is changing, and that government finally recognizes the private sector as valuable partners that can bring positive change, as was contained in the DAY manifesto. We're quite encouraged. We welcome with excitement the establishment of the private sector participation unit, which will be housed under the DPSA. However, we just want clarity in terms of what role will government oversight bodies such as Parliament play in monitoring the activities of the public sector participation unit, and can you commit to at least a monthly report submitted to the Portfolio Committee on Transport in this regard? And also, maybe lastly, what are the set terms of reference of the private sector participation unit? But overall, we welcome government's approach in terms of recognizing the valuable role that the private sector can bring in terms of positive change and assisting government. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Minister.
Honourable Member, I think I've pointed out that the private sector's involvement in Transnet is not so new. It certainly goes back over many decades. The private participation unit is going to be set up under the Development Bank of South Africa, and the purpose of setting up that unit is to make sure that those who respond to the network statement, and the network statement is essentially the menu and the price for third-party participation, it's to make sure that those expressions of interest should reach financial close. Because one of the learnings we have had from the Independent Power Producer Program is that many of those bids never reached financial close and never resulted in the production of energy. So we want to make sure that this process does reach financial close and does result in new operators and new investment in our rail system. Thank you.
We now move on to question number 315, which has been asked by the Honourable Mganga Kabashe to the Minister of Tourism. The question is about the measures the Department has implemented through the National Tourism Safety Strategy to secure high-crime tourist areas ahead of the festive season. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The safety of all South Africans, including our tourists and visitors, is paramount, and we are determined to do all that we can to ensure that all tourists have a safe and memorial experience in South Africa. The Department continues to support the development of tourism safety initiatives at provincial level. We collaborate with provincial partners and also with the South African Police Services and other relevant stakeholders to drive the implementation of the National Tourism Safety Strategy. In preparation for the festive season, we will conduct safety awareness campaign with our partners in the private sector and the police. And on the 14th of October, we had a consultation with all our partners, including SAPS and the provinces, where we shared our plans with the police to tighten safety for tourists during the festive season. The department invested 174 million and implemented the Tourism Monitor program. The Tourism Monitor program is part of a broader government intervention that include the training, mentorship, and deployment of unemployed young people in identified tourism attractions. The trained 2,300 monitors are currently based at tourism attraction hotspots across our country, and we are working together with the private sector in this program. Also, part of the initiatives will ensure that tourists have access to information on their destination, that they understand the do's and the don'ts while on tour, and that provinces are also looking at ensuring enough visibility of police in partnership with the South African Police Services. I thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Mnanganga Kabashe.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Minister, I heard your explanation in terms of your discussions with the Department of Police, but could you please elaborate further on the plans and time frames on your engagement with the Department of Police? I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. We do have a memorandum of agreement with the police. The police continue to assist us to train our tourism monitors, and we continue to work together. So next week we will be launching our summer campaign in the Free State, and again we will be providing information, because this campaign must also continue to be implemented beyond the festive season. I thank you.
Thank you. The next supplementary question is to be asked by the Honourable Ismail.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, in preparation for tourism peak season, what type of technology integration monitoring have you initiated to ensure tourists are safe when they are in the country to enhance safety monitoring? You've stated that you are making something available to tourists. Can you please specify what type of tourist safety information is provided to tourists, like safety guidelines, emergency contact information, and crime prevention tips? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Ismail. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this is a partnership. We work with the hotels. They provide safety tips in the rooms of our guests, at their reception areas. We work together with the tour operators, the tour guides. We're all in it together to provide safety tips at all times. So the technology at work now is an app that is being designed and funded by the private sector, Secure app, where tourists can download when they arrive in our country. Even local tourists can use it, and then they are able to have access to police, to medical aid services. So it's ongoing. We regret the attack on any of our tourists, even our local tourists. And as South Africans, we must all work together to make sure that our tourists leave our country, and even locally, that they must remember their experience, and that crime is a problem for all of us. The police is looking after us as South Africans, including our visitors, like I have said. So we are really trying our best, but as we know, the crooks are always one step ahead of us, and we have to continue to improve what we are doing. Thank you.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Mchunu.
Thank you, Chair. Honourable Minister Mchunu, what has been the strategy relating to managing crime in high-crime tourist destinations in the past? Why has this strategy failed? Is the National Tourism Safety Strategy not just another strategy that will contribute to undermine South African tourism value proposition through the ineffective management of crime in the country's crime hotspots? Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. We indeed, in the past 18 months, we have shared our plan on the National Tourism Strategy with all the missions based in our country, all embassies, all consul generals. We also informed all our missions abroad about the plan. And because we are all working together to secure the safety, and that we need to continue to improve on what we are doing, and continue to work with the police, whose mandate it is, first and foremost, to look after the safety of all South Africans and our visitors. We cannot lower, we cannot wait. We cannot just blame each other. We regret, we don't want any of our tourists to be attacked while they are visiting our country. But certainly it's not a waste of time. Thank you.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Titu.
Thanks, Speaker. Minister, already you have highlighted to us about the knowledge that safety on the issue of tourism. But now, can you give us how much actually the liability was incurred by the tourist sector and by extension the country so far from all the harm that befell tourists to date, and also on the intelligent setup? How many intelligence have you put in place to ensure that tourism, when they come to South Africa, they are safe and then they are not coming to any harm? Thanks.
The Honourable the Minister.
Honourable Chairperson, can I repeat? The safety of all South Africans are important, including our visitors. And therefore, we don't make a distinction to say we must just look after tourists. What we've been doing is that in the safety forum, we even have the National Prosecuting Authority. Last year, they've been able to amend the Act to make it possible that if an attack took place in our country and a visitor must come back for a court hearing, that the visitors are able to do it virtually now. So the only thing that I can commit to is that all of us have got a responsibility, and all of us must work together with our police services and with our Metro Police and our provinces to make sure that all tourists, including South African tourists, that they have an enjoyable experience. I thank you.
Thank you. Honourable members, question number 329 has been asked by the Honourable Ngobo to the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. The question is about strategies to address the department's 80% project failure rate and the new target success rate. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Indeed, the department did not achieve the planned completion of its projects for the financial year contemplated 2022-2023 and has recognized the need to implement interventions to improve project performance. When I was appointed by the President as Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, it became clear to me that there was a culture ingrained in some areas where there is no concern nor consequence management for projects which are not completed on time or, more importantly, on budget. I have seen report after report where projects are awarded to companies which clearly do not have the capacity to complete such big projects and then fail after a short space of time, despite being given large sums of money up front. It is evident that many of these companies should never have been awarded tenders in the first place. Contracts are then seeded, where more funds are then required to complete the project. One clear example of this is in the Sarah Baartman district, where a cultural centre was supposed to have been built as far back as 2013. To date, 247 million rand has been poured into this project, which is yet to be finished, and only 37% of the project has been completed, but is multiples above its original budget. In this instance, the project was seeded twice since its awarding. This is just one of many examples. I must emphasize that with my appointment as Minister, issues such as these will not magically be fixed overnight. However, one promise I will make is that I will ensure that projects such as Sarah Baartman and Telkom Towers do not happen again. Tenders must be awarded to companies that can complete projects on time and on budget, and if they don't, they will be blacklisted from working with us. You cannot get a tender and then simply contract the project out. Contractors who fail to meet the requirements of construction will be terminated and appropriate legal action sought to recover any amounts arising out of their breach of contract. In addition, any person found to be stalling a project or interfering in its progress will be dealt with by the full might of the law, whether that is an employee of the department or outside person or community. The foundation of any successful department or government is its strict compliance with governance principles, meaning that where money is allocated, it is not wasted or stolen. By getting the foundations of our tender process correct, projects will begin to be completed on time and on budget. Coupled with this, we have to drastically improve project management because this has not been to an acceptable level. As a member of the Executive, I have also written to the Speaker of the National Assembly to request an opportunity to make an executive statement relating to unfinished and delayed infrastructure projects. I look forward to the National Assembly agreeing to my request, given the importance of this issue we faced together, working with you as members of Parliament on solutions. This will allow me to present a comprehensive plan to Parliament, as I know this issue is important to members and to the constituencies they represent. I thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Honourable members, I've been informed that the Honourable Gadebe will take charge of the first supplementary question on behalf of the Honourable Ngobo in accordance with Rule 137.10a. Honourable Gadebe.
Thank you so much, Honourable House Chairperson. Thank you, Honourable Minister, for that detailed response. Honourable Minister, I would like to know what initiatives has the department implemented to monitor projects and quickly identify underperforming ones for timely intervention so as to ensure that contractors who have required intervention due to poor performance are not awarded future contracts by the department. Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Let me also express my condolences to the Inkatha Freedom Party on the passing of Her Royal Highness Princess Buthelezi as well. Let me say, Honourable Member, that the problem that we face is that there are very little consequences for people who don't implement project management. And that's where our departure point is to recognize what our problem is and then find solutions to that. So we are currently working and having consultations with Infrastructure South Africa and the councils within the built environment as to how we can partner with them, whether it's through quantity surveyors, engineers, whoever that may be, to help us get our project management and preparation skills correct. On preparation, that is also vitally important. If you're not, if you haven't packaged and prepared the project to begin with correctly, it is going to fail. So I think that the processes that we've started, the discussions that we've had, the partnerships that we also want to build as well, we've taken some advice from best practice overseas. And what we're going to be looking to do, Honourable Member, is pilot maybe 10 of the worst delayed projects, and then we're going to put that into our system and then actually see how quickly we can get them back on track through partnerships. And if that works, then obviously we'll be able to roll that out more intensely. But also, House Chair, if I can say, you know, I think that the department often takes on more than it is capable to do at this point. And that's why I go back to my earlier point that I made, is that we need to reconsider what the department takes on and whether clients are better suited to implement some of these maintenance and building contracts themselves. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Lelanga.
Enkosi Hlalo Begileyo. Honourable Minister, I've listened to your responses. What consequence management is going to occur for incomplete projects? And how will the money be recovered from construction companies who fail to deliver? Thank you so much.
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. That is an important question because I think for far too often impunity and lack of consequences has been the name of the game. Recently, I signed affidavits and court papers for the SIU to go and recover 300,000 Rand from a contractor that had been paid erroneously or done work that we did not ask them to do. But that simply is not enough. We've got to see officials that that allow projects to go on and on, to be disciplined or to be removed, and those contractors who are clearly not capable of being awarded contracts must be blacklisted. And those people who steal from us and from our tenders must go to jail. That's where they belong. They don't belong anywhere else but in jail. And let me give you this assurance, Honourable Member, that when we have the reported investigation, the independent investigation that I commissioned into Telkom Towers, because that is a microcosm, but a good representation of what goes wrong within our department, that money is spent, contracts are given to people who can't complete them, and then the government sits with these massive, massive failed projects where we've spent over R1 billion. I want to see money recovered, but I also want that report to detail which officials were responsible for that failed project so they get removed and that people go to prison. That is where they belong, not working within our department. Thank you so much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Bath.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. I'd like to ask the Minister to please elaborate on the specific internal and external challenges that led to the failure of about 80% of its planned projects and how these challenges will be addressed in the department's new strategy. Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Bath, for the question. What we've seen is a lack of project preparation. And so you will have seen, Honourable Member, last week we announced a project preparation facility of 179 million rand, where we are literally going to pay and fund the preparation of infrastructure projects, and so that they become bankable and that they have a head start along the way. The second problem that we experience, and I have to be honest with you, is the awarding of contracts to people that are just simply not able to deliver. That's why I have made a commitment that tender processes in our department are going to be open to the public. We are going to make sure that those meetings are audio and visually recorded so that any person is able to access them through application to our department, so that there is no veil of secrecy of how these tenders are awarded. We simply cannot afford, Honourable Member, to keep funding the same projects over and over again, as we've seen in Sarah Bartman, that we've paid 250, R250 million. It's nearly the same amount of money we spent in Nkandla, and we have only been able to complete 37% of that project. And so we want to make
Honourable
sure that
Minister,
value
please just
for money.
take your seat for a moment.
You're starting now.
Honourable Member, why are you rising? Is it a point of order?
Yeah, it's a point of order, Chair. He's too excited. Thank you.
No, thank you. That's not a point of order. Honourable Minister, were you done?
You're absolutely right. I'm excited. I'm excited to beat back corruption, and I'm excited to deliver projects. I'm excited to make sure that we are able to get this country working. So you're absolutely right that I'm excited, Honourable Member. And I know that it terrifies the opposition that this government is working together. We are
Honourable Minister,
of the people first, and there's no money that's
there's
going to be
another hand. Honourable Member, is that now a real point of order?
Yeah, no, it's a real point of order. He's casting aspersion and the arrogancy. We cannot tolerate arrogancy here. He cannot say what he must withdraw.
Yeah, no, Honourable
He's casting aspersion, Chair.
Honourable Member, you have to cast aspersion on a member of the House in order for me to rule.
No, you know, if that's the case, Chair, you're going to get this from us. Watch the space.
Thank you.
Because we won't tolerate racists here.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Thank you.
Honourable Meshwe, the Reverend will have the opportunity to pose the last supplementary question.
Point of order.
There's another hand there. Well, I see two hands. Will the Minister and the Chief Whip decide who will take the floor?
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. The Honourable Member said, referring to the Minister, we will not tolerate racists here. Can you withdraw his statement, please?
Honourable Member, did you refer to the Minister as a racist?
I don't know, sir.
Okay, Honourable Members, I will refer to the Hansard and come back with a ruling in that regard. Honourable Minister, do you want to be recognised?
Yes, has my time expired on responding to the question?
Honourable Minister, unfortunately now I'm not hearing you properly.
Was my time expired? Because I still have some more excitement to share.
Yeah, there's another 20 seconds left on the last question.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, House Chairperson. So, Chair, at the end of the day, in response to Honourable Barth, we are committed to making sure that we get this department back on track, that those projects that are incomplete, we're going to do our best to complete them, and we're going to make this country proud of what this department can do so that everyone can share in the excitement that we feel on this side of the House. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Honourable Meshe, now is your time.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Honourable Minister. The Department of Public Works and Infrastructure has allegedly spent 98% of its budget in the 2023/2024 financial year and only completed 59% of its projects. This points to poor leadership, inefficiency, mismanagement, and possible corruption, which has become endemic in many departments and must be rooted out before government loses more of its resources. The Auditor General's report, which exposed the department's what they call blatant refusal to address rampant misconduct and corruption over this period, highlights the presence of individuals who have become a law unto themselves. My question, Minister, is when will these individuals who refuse to be accountable be replaced by servants of the people, people who are committed to serve their country and the department with integrity? Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Reverend Meshwe, for the question. You're absolutely right that there is no correlation between the budget being spent and projects being delivered. And so we are effectively spending more on delivering less, and that is not a situation I'm prepared to accept. Reverend, that's why one of the first things I wanted to do was to bring stability within the department, and we took the permanent appointment of the Deputy Director General for Governance, Risk and Compliance to Cabinet to get his approval, so that he can then start systematically working through all of these problems that have been highlighted by the Auditor General, and so that we are able to see disciplinary action get taken. There is no place in our department for crooked or corrupt officials. I want to make that very, very clear. And if people have evidence or they are being solicited for bribes or any sort of inducement for work, I really want them to bring that information to my attention. It's not an easy task, Reverend, to be able to turn a department around like this so quickly. So it is an issue of patience that we do require. We do require the support of the Portfolio Committee, and they have been very supportive in the work that we want to do. And so I am grateful for that. And I do hope that when we are able to look back at the end of this term in 2029, we will be able to say, yes, indeed, the Minister kept his word. He cleaned up the department. He was able to achieve clean audits across the board, and he was able to deliver value for money to the people of this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Honourable Members, question number 374 has been asked by the Honourable Meshwe to the Minister of Small Business Development. The question is about mechanisms to ensure Spaza shop owners pay requisite taxes to the South African Revenue Services. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you so much, House Chair, and thank you to Honourable Meshwe for this important question. Honourable Meshwe, according to Lisaka Technologies, they say it is estimated that the informal sector contributes about 750 billion rands to the GDP. Now, in this contribution, it is estimated that between 60 to 70% are the only revenue tax contributors. Spaza shops are categorized in that 30% that is not contributing towards the tax. This, therefore, means that, firstly, as the department, that does not have the mandate to monitor tax contributions, we're not able to see what is happening. But the second aspect is that for those businesses that we are supporting, we're able to monitor as part of the business support that we provide in order to ensure that there's compliance to enable them to be able to also get to access to markets and finances. The last component is that we are working with the CIPC, we are working with SARS in order to ensure that we share data, but most importantly, we raise awareness amongst the informal traders and the other MSMEs on tax benefits, because most of the informal sector does not want to be registered for tax because they are scared that their profits will be reduced. And this is why the Commissioner has set up a special unit under SARS that is looking at tax for MSMEs that also introduces incentives for those that are tax compliant. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Oh, House Chair.
Thank you. Reverend Meshwe, you have the opportunity to ask the first supplementary question.
Thank you, Chairperson. My apology. May I ask for your indulgence and ask my follow-up after the next person? I have a challenge with my iPad.
Honourable Meshwe, unfortunately, the rules do not allow me to pass you and come back to you. I can give you a few seconds. Honorable Meshwe. Can we move on? Okay, order, honorable members. The next opportunity to ask a follow-up question is that of the Honorable Jonas.
Thank you, Chair. To the Minister. Minister, many South Africans can't see in practicality how these Spaza shops contribute to the economy, especially in the light of 5 children that died from poisonous snacks from these shops. Nonetheless, what specific measures were taken between the stakeholders to harshly address non-compliance of illegal foreign national Spaza shops owners who are not registered for tax? I thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for that question. Firstly, let me explain that in South Africa, as things stand, we do not have effective regulation on Spaza shops, whether owned by South Africans or non-South Africans. But there is the Businesses Act that gives authority to local municipalities to ensure that they are the ones that issue permits. As the department that has been recently established, responsible for the sector that we're talking about, we are bringing a legislation to Parliament to ensure that we are able to give ourselves some authority to be able to ensure that we can issue certain directives when it comes to the licensing. Now, you are saying the issue of the illegal foreigners that are owning some of the Spaza shops. The Department of Home Affairs clearly stipulates who can get a visa who has been given access to South Africa. Now, this means that if you are here on a study visa, on a work visa, and any other visa that is not of business, you do not have a right to trade, whether you are here legally or illegally. Now, for you to be able to trade, the Immigration Act, Section 15, says that you must at least invest a minimum of 5 million rands into the economy for you to get business visa. Now, this requires enforcement to check first, are the people that are trading compliant with that if they are non-South Africans? And the Department of Home Affairs is working day in, day out to make sure that they increase their capacity to make sure that they can reach out to all those that are there. But the second aspect is that the foreigners that we're talking about are renting spaces to property owners that are owning those businesses, not government buildings, which requires us to work with communities in terms of saying, when you are leasing your land or your building, do make sure that the person that you are leasing to is a person who has the right to trade. Earlier on, I spoke about the Department
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Unfortunately, your time has run out. The next supplementary question is to be asked by the Honourable Ghana.
So this is the essence of the question. It's whether you, as a Minister of Small Business, believe that foreign nationals operating in South Africa should enjoy the same tax benefits that South Africans who own small businesses must enjoy. And whether you, as a Minister of Small Businesses representing South Africans, you are going to lobby Treasury that it introduce a special tax regime for foreign nationals who operate businesses in South Africa of whatever size. Whether you are doing a shoe repair or you are selling vegetables, we believe there should be a special tax regime for foreign nationals operating in South Africa. What is your view on that?
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you so much, House Chair. The matters of tax regulation, incentives, and everything are a competency of the Department of National Treasury. But of course, don't howl, Manizo Vanjani. Please, you are lawmakers. Now, what I said earlier that we are introducing the amendments on the Businesses Act and the Business Licensing Act is simply to say there should be certain sectors that are reserved for South Africans within the different segments of our economy. What that means is that if you are outside that category, therefore, you are forced to do certain things that will be dictated to by National Treasury. On our side as government, as our constitution dictates, if you read section 22 of our constitution, everyone has the right to trade, but it further says that right to trade may be regulated by law. And this is why we are bringing to say, as part of the global economy, because South Africa is not an island, therefore we're not able to say foreigners should never trade in South Africa. That is not allowed in this country, because our constitution does not allow it. But you can preserve certain sectors for your South Africans as any responsible government. National Treasury has introduced the Public Preferential Bill, the act that has been signed, which seeks to make sure that it allows for set-asides that must be reserved for MSMEs, especially owned by South Africans. So when that time comes, I do hope the honorable members will support that bill and be specific on what must be done in the interest of protecting and growing our economy, especially for South Africans in certain sectors. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Kwankwa.
Anisakhumshi mandide ndanengcilikitha ndiyanoba nenziwa ngalamanzi nadigidigi ngathi ngawasechankcele. Minister, ngathi ngawakwamangconde. Minister, the point uyithethayo precisely we raised it many moons ago ngela xesha isenguMinister Khumbudzo Chaveni. We cited specifically the Ghana Investment Promotion Center Act of 865 of 2013, Section 27, where it specifies as the sectors which should be reserved for South Africans in particular, into ezifana nezi shops, ne-barber shop. Awunawusuka ngapha South Africa ucinga uzawubabayela ubheke eGhana uvele ufike pha uvula ispaza shop usebenze nakwezinye parts of the continent. Kulapha eMzantsi Afrika qha apho kwaxhele yakhe akabuzwa. Ndifuna uqonda ukuthi icothe phi lento sasiyithethe kudala kule thema idlulileyo izawukhawuleziswa njani kuba abasomashishini sebengakhathali nje is the absence of the regulations that we are talking about. Thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, House Chair. Umhlonishwa uyibeka ngokukhalaza in terms of the pace of ensuring that we address the challenge that we are faced with. Earlier on, I spoke of collaborative efforts by the different departments that have a responsibility around the matter that he's talking about. I articulated what the Department of Home Affairs is doing. I spoke about what the Department of Labor is doing in relation to the National Labor Policy. I also indicated that COGTA is busy finalizing the gazetting of the directives that must guide the municipalities on what to license in relation to the sector that we're talking about. Now, as he says, this matter was raised with my predecessor. Indeed, the department is in a process of addressing that. I earlier spoke about the process towards developing a legislation in this country that Umhlonishwa knows that there's certain things that are expected to do. It is no different when it comes to the business licensing bill that I spoke about, just like it is no different to the development of the Township Economic Development and Revitalization Policy that the department had committed to this House, that by the end of this quarter, we'll be tabling it to Cabinet and of course, gazetting and finalizing it before the end of this financial year. And that Township Economic Development and Revitalization Policy looks at some of the aspects that you are doing. The reason I'm highlighting what other departments are doing is because it is not something that can just be done by the department. I said earlier, this department just turned 10 this year. It needed some legal authority in terms of the legislations that are there. And the Businesses Act was only transferred in 2020. Parliament just approved and the President signed the Small Enterprise Act, which gave us some authority to be able to establish certain instruments that must give effect into dealing with the challenges that are faced by the sector. We continue to work with other departments. Whilst we are not waiting on our side, as I said, we are bringing the policy to Cabinet by the end of November to make sure that some of the issues that we are raising are addressed. So, asimanga mhlonishwa siyaqhuba.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Members, question number 317 has been asked by the Honourable Nkosi to the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. The question is about the progress on the compilation of the Department's physical asset register. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you very much. An opportunity for me to continue my excitement. The Department of Public Works and Infrastructure does have an immovable asset register. The immovable assets under the custodianship of the department comprises of 27,150 land parcels and 81,120 buildings. The total value of these properties is recorded to be 153 billion rand as at 31 March 2024. Approximately 2,100 land parcels are still to be vested in the rightful custodians. However, I do not yet have sufficient confidence in these numbers and do not believe that the valuation or number is an accurate representation of what we own, and in fact the number of properties and land parcels are most likely higher and far more valuable. To be honest, House Chairperson, I am not sure that after the state trying to ascertain this for the last 30 years under previous administrations, it would be correct to expect this to be done in 12 months. The reality is, due to the complex nature of a registry, we may also have to accept that we may never fully know what we own. However, this will no longer be used as a smokescreen for not disposing of assets, especially those that the state does not require or leverage high-value assets for infrastructure investment. I've recently met with a number of companies in the technology space, financial institutions, investment funds, and others who gave us presentations on how best to deal with our asset portfolio, and more specifically, how to ensure we have an accurate representation of what we own. We discussed at length the available options to us, and we will soon be looking to go to the market for service providers to provide us with credible options to risk manage what we own, what we should own, and with an accurate, realistic asset value. We will also be looking into the best use of technology to enable an asset information management platform that provides us with a single risk-based assessment of our immovable assets, data integrity and data security for our assets, a whole asset lifecycle management system based on technology that is able to predict asset problems based on data points before they arise. So essentially, we will be able to predict maintenance problems before they actually take place. This is what our plan is. It's obviously a long way to go, but it is crucial that the state understands and knows what it owns, what its value is, to best determine the course of action going forward. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Nkosi is recognised to ask the first supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Minister, what are the challenges experienced by the department in compiling the physical asset register thus far, and what resources is required to complete it? Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Nkosi, for the follow-up question. I think the first problem is actually trying to, with some authority, understand exactly where all of the assets are. And what is their condition. That is really important, because that determines its value. Now, my view is that we should be looking at this in three buckets, if I can put it that way. The first one is to understand what is the most valuable of assets that we have, and what condition are those assets, and what can we do with them. The second bucket that we should be looking at, Honourable Member, is assets that are in need of investment, but which also generate return for us. So that's the second priority focus that we should have. And everything outside of that, well, you know, if we find it along the way, we should dispose of it because it is not valuable to the state, it does not add to the state's objectives, and other departments or clients or other spheres of government don't need it. That should be wrapped in a risk-based assessment and approach that we are able to categorize the most risky assets so that we are able to intervene where they exist in the shortest amount of time. What we don't want to see is our assets catching fire, collapsing, or being used for other purposes than which they originally intended to do. I also think that it's important that we understand what the value of the most valuable assets are, because if we can ring-fence those in a property fund, we are able to leverage debt off of them that we can then use into our infrastructure build and our social infrastructure. That's essentially how property asset managers run their businesses, and that's what we want to start bringing into this department. If we want to be able to go forward and deal with the infrastructure backlog, we've got to generate our own funds, because our budgets are being cut by National Treasury, not increased. So this is one way to be able to
Thank
do
you,
it.
Honourable
We can use
Minister.
public assets for public good in that way. Thank you so much, Honourable Member.
The second supplementary question has been allocated to the Honourable Bath.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. Minister, in your opinion, given the persistent challenges in compiling a complete and reliable immovable asset register, does the Government Immovable Asset Management Act of 2007, otherwise known as GIAMA, remain fit for purpose, or does the Department see a need for legislative review or amendment to ensure more effective management of state assets? Thank you.
Honourable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. It's a good question, because GIAMA really underpins what we do with our assets and how we deal with them. Now, that Act has been in existence, I think, since 2007, and I think that it's time to review GIAMA and the provisions of it, so that we are able to make it more nimble for the state to be able to use its properties in its best interests. One of the tasks that my Asset Advisory Committee will be tasked with is a review and legislative inputs into GIAMA and how to make it fit for purpose in 2024 and going forward. So that is something that we will obviously then take to Cabinet. It will then come to the Portfolio Committee, and hopefully in the not too distant future I look forward to engaging on that amendment bill to GIAMA. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Gama.
Thank you very much, Slalom Dulastulo. Minister, I hope you won't be taking a detour to Nkandla on this question, but that you will answer the question itself. Otherwise, I begin to understand why the Premier Undunankulu Panyazale Sufi has a hard line where he rules. In the 30 years of putting together the asset register, do you know what is the value of assets in the former TPVC's territories, the Bantustans, Transkei, Bophuthatswana, Venda, and Ciskei?
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your time has expired. Honourable Minister.
There was sure one detour that the Honourable Gama took to get to ask a question. Honourable Member, let me say to you that, as we had previously said, that there is a number of land parcels that we still have to vest. There's around 2,100 left to go. I think the vast majority, well within to the 90%, that has taken place. The truth of the matter is that no matter where land is located, whether it's located in the former homelands, whether it is located in urban centres or even buildings, it must be put to good use. And there's far too much land that government owns, and there are far too many buildings that government owns that is not being put to good use. And that's why we're determined to make sure that we understand what the value of it is, so that it can be correctly accounted for and correctly leveraged, and that we're able to determine where that land is so that it is able to be correctly appropriated wherever that may be. What I also do want to say is what we have picked up is, unfortunately, land that one day was on our register and then the next day it's not. Or land that was valued at X amount of money, and then when you go and look at the municipal valuation, it's valued at something else. That's why it's absolutely key that we get it right. It can't be that after this long there is not the credibility in that asset register as it should be, as it undermines the very base in which we as a department are trying to work from. So I do hope that that assists you, and I thank you for the question, Honourable House Chair.
Thank you. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Gadebe.
Thanks, Honourable House Chair. Honourable Minister, your department holds several government buildings that are currently abandoned and in despair as its assets. Given the pressing needs for the office space, what strategies are being implemented to repurpose this building for use by the government departments that are spending millions on rental office space? I thank you, Chair.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for the question. Currently, we pay out 6 billion rand a year on office leases for government departments. And in my view, that is an extraordinary amount of money, considering the amount of buildings that we own. So what we are looking at is saying, how do we bring departments back into government buildings, particularly those that are in the inner city, so that we are part of driving inner city regeneration. That's why I set up a working group with the City of Tshwane, with eThekwini, and with Cape Town, so that we're able to start that process of identifying properties where government can occupy in the city centre, so that we're able to regenerate those centres in conjunction with them. I think what we've also seen is that government is too quick to go and take offices with sea views and in nice suburban areas, instead of occupying those within the city centre. And they can pay 120 Rand or more per square metre on those offices. The problem that we face is that our cost per square metre on building is around 26 Rand. And that's just because those buildings are completely underinvested in. So if we want to get it up to a A-grade office space, we need to, instead of putting more money into leases, put that money into those buildings and uplifting them. We also want to work with the private sector so we can create public-private partnerships in those buildings so that they can take some office space and we take office space. So I think that if we can start to do that, it'll make a big difference. And there are examples of where we create these precincts, and in Tshwane there's Silvercorp, and there's a whole lot of government departments that have come into there. It's a flagship project. I know the portfolio committee was there not too long ago. So if we're able to do more of those partnerships, if we're able to get government back into government buildings...
Thank you, Minister. Your
reduce,
time has now run
costs.
out.
Thank you so much.
Honourable Members, question number 299 has been asked by the Honourable Nkitam to the Minister of Land Reform and Rural Development. The question is about the total amount in monetary compensation that has been paid to white landowners since 1 January 1994 in respect of land reclaimed through restitution processes. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, House Chair. Africa, the total amount of 25.4 billion has to date been paid to landowners to acquire land for restitution purposes. Commission does not have record in terms of race on payments done. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
The first supplementary question is to be asked by the Honourable Nkitam.
Africa, Porto. Okay. Africa Poko. We were all shocked during the meeting of the Portfolio Committee on Land and Rural Development when the Chief Commissioner of the Restitution Commission openly admitted that the government pays land claimants financial compensation where they opt for it, instead of getting back their land they were dispossessed from. In such cases, the Chief Commissioner informed us that land thieves get to keep the land, and thereby the state effectively buys the land on behalf of beneficiaries of apartheid and colonial land theft. Minister, do you agree that the restitution process benefits the land thieves more than the victims of land dispossession? Essentially, Minister, the restitution process is the legitimation of land theft. Do you agree? And apart from this injustice of buying land on behalf of land thieves, the restitution process is a distortion of the history of land dispossession by pegging it at 1913 instead of 1652, when Jan van Riebeeck arrived here with his thugs on the Reiger, dromedaries, and Goede Hoop. Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
Africa, Ngitama, I do not agree that the restitution serves the former or the landowners. All I can agree with you is that the process is slow, and this department is going to make sure that the pace is fast and people are getting land. I don't agree with you, Africa.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Mahlatsi.
Thank you, Speaker. Khotsong Africa. Africa. The department's reports indicate that only 10% of previously white-owned land has been transferred to black beneficiaries at a cost of 57.8 billion spent on restitution. Africa. To what extent does this method of restitution align with the principle of justice, redress, and sustainable development? Kanimambo.
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Africa President. I agree with you that the pace is slow, and we are going to change that pace. For example, President, this Friday, we will be allocating land to black people in Venda to the tune of 77 million rands. Now, we are changing the pace. Otherwise, I agree with you, it's 10%, but as time goes, we'll make sure that we address it fastly. That is what we're doing.
The third supplementary question is to be asked by the Honourable Madikizela.
Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, Section 25(3) of the Constitution set out a range of factors that must be taken into account when calculating just and equitable compensation. For example, the current use of the property, the history of the acquisition, the market value of the property, the extent of direct state investment and subsidy in the acquisition and beneficial capital improvement of the property, and the purpose of the expropriation. Would you say, Minister, in all the payments that have been made so far for the land, your department comply with this section of this Constitution?
The Honourable the Minister.
Yes, Honourable. The department has complied with this section. And that is what the department is continuing doing right now. Remember, there's also, in the same section, there's also expropriation bill that today is sitting in front of the President. It was processed by this Parliament. And with that, we are going to make sure that we comply. But as things stand, we are complying, comrade. Thank you.
Thank you. The last supplementary question is to be asked by the Honourable Mateas.
With respect, Honourable Chair, I'm taking the follow-up.
And I was so looking forward to listen to my fellow Free Stater, but you can go.
Baya Danki. Honourable Minister,
since this complaint you are repeating about the slow pace of the return of the land for the last 30 years in relation to restitution, but if we are to take the 1600s, is hundreds and hundreds of years our people have been waiting for the land. May I request your opinion on the well-known policy of the PAC, which might, in this case, accelerate this policy? What do you make of the one settler, one bullet policy as a way forward? Thank you very much.
The Honourable the Minister.
One settler, one bullet is an old slogan of the PAC. It is the slogan that was used at that time by APLA forces. It is the slogan that was used to make sure that we save rounds. Each one gets his own round. Otherwise, it is not the slogan that is used today because we are not fighting at all. And by the way, Comrade Ndozi, leave PAC affairs to PAC members. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable members, question number 335 has been asked by the Honourable Pambu to the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. The question is about the Republic's collaboration with international partners and Israel, in particular to advance science and technology. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chair, and thanks to the Honourable Pambo who asked the question. Our department has a dedicated and extensive portfolio of engagements committed to advance South Africa's participation in international science, technology, and innovation partnerships. As a matter of fact, I've addressed this extensively in answering the earlier questions. These, for example, seek to enable South Africa's sharing international experience and expertise, including through researcher training and staff exchanges, promoting science, technology, and innovation-oriented foreign investment in South Africa, and advance strategic priorities, as I have said, such as the African and South-South agendas in STI. We already have in our annual performance plan performance indicators that are focused on these objectives. The department currently has no direct partnership or collaboration with apartheid Israel and strictly adheres to the prescripts of South Africa's foreign policy on matters related to engagement with Israel. Instead, what I wish to say, Honourable House Chair, is that I have established a research partnership between South Africa and Palestinian researchers as a way of continuing active solidarity and contributing also to arresting the prospect of a whole Palestinian civilization being wiped out by the current genocide that is taking place in that part of the world. Thank you very much.
The first supplementary question is to be asked by the Honourable Pambo, but now it looks like the Honourable Paulsen.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and thank you very much, Minister. Those of us on the progressive left appreciate the effort to assist the Palestinian people. So, Minister, would you support a bill that would make it illegal for all South African researchers, public and private, to collaborate with research institutions or individuals, public or private, in apartheid Israel, given that boycott, sanctions and divestment assisted us in our fight against apartheid South Africa? Thank you very much.
The Honourable the Minister.
Honourable House Chair, thank you very much, Honourable Paulsen, for that question. Well, whether a bill or not may work, it's a subject that could be considered by Parliament itself. But what I agree with is that, as far as I'm concerned, we should terminate all relations with the Israeli universities and colleges. As a matter of fact, more than 100 university professors in Gaza have been killed, and all the universities in Gaza are destroyed. The schooling system is gone. I don't know which sane South African would like us to collaborate with such murderers and pursuers of genocide. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Ngubane. Order, honourable members. Let's listen to the Honourable Ngubane. Honourable Ngubane, it would seem your...
Honourable Minister, thank you very much for that clarity of totally not working with Israel. But Honourable Minister, with the current so-called GNU government being on the slow pace in implementing its resolutions of closing all embassies of Israel in South Africa, just to make sure, is Arms Corps or Department of Defense or any other department not in partnership with your department in relations to collaborations with Israel on any nuclear, drone or Iron Dome knowledge in relations to selling of sophisticated arms to Israel or sharing any knowledge of scientific defense mechanism on airborne diseases against attacks from any Middle East countries? Thank you, Minister.
The Honourable the Minister.
Move. I can't, unfortunately, as you know, I can't answer for...
Honourable Minister, please just for a moment there. Your colleague in the Cabinet, the Honourable Minister of Water and Sanitation. Let's all listen to the Minister of Science and Technology. Thank you.
Honourable Ngubane, unfortunately, I can't answer for my colleagues or the entities like you are mentioning, whether there's collaboration with Israel or not.
Honourable Minister, I think the hand waves at the back are no points of order. It's just indicating that you're not audible.
Oh, am I not audible?
We know that you're one of the taller members of Cabinet, but will you just move closer to the mic, please?
Order, Honourable Chair. No, what I would like to say is that I cannot speak for my colleagues or the entities under them on collaboration with Israel. All what I know is that I am not aware of any of the entities under my department that would be working with Israel. Were I to actually find that out, on my side I would be able to act on that. Insofar as entities that are under my...
Honourable Minister, I have a hand here to my left. Honourable Manyi, why are you rising?
Thank you, Chair. I think the Minister is violating the Constitution. In terms of the Constitution, they have cabinet, they have collective responsibility as the cabinet.
Yeah, no.
So you can't have a minister saying it's somebody else and somebody else. He must take responsibility
Honourable
and
Manyi.
respond.
Yeah, that's no point of order. That's a point of debate. Honourable Minister, please continue.
I think that I've actually answered. Honourable Manyi, yes, we do take collective responsibility, but ministers have got responsibilities. I can't just go into the portfolio of another minister and actually be able to comment authoritatively and about what is essentially a new question, by the way, which is not in line with the question that has been asked here. So I have answered insofar as I've answered, and I have stated my position that if you are aware of any of my entities that are working with the Israeli government, I will have to deal with that matter when it actually comes to that. And what is the nature of that relationship, and what is it that actually needs to be done. So I think that what I've told you is how far I can go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The third supplementary question is to be asked by the Honourable Ramogalo.
Thank you, Speaker. Can the Minister elaborate on what events South Africa will be hosting regarding science, technology, and innovation? And also, at what international events, be they local or international, will be showcasing our achievements and plans to advance our STI sector? Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Well, thanks for the question. We do regularly host events. The next one that we are holding is our annual event, which is the South African Science Forum, which we are hosting in December this year. We've just hosted now in September our annual Science Week. And before that, for instance, we had an event of South Africa Women in Science Awards, awarding our women for their participation in science. I'm also likely to be going next month to the World Science Forum, which we hosted in the African continent for the first time in Cape Town last year. I will be attending this year as part of the handover of having done this. We've got numerous other activities. I would be more than happy to supply you with those, because as South Africa, much as our science system is not big, but is the single largest in the African continent, and we've got very extensive relations, and our scientists are respected globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honourable members, there was no request for the last supplementary question. Honourable members, earlier in the sitting, I deferred making a ruling on a point of order raised in respect of remarks of the Honourable Skosana. I've since consulted the Hansard, and let me, as a background, say that, of course, in the rough and tumble, typical of a political arena like this House, it's not strange that we disagree with one another, but those disagreements must happen within the confines of the rules. It is, however, also the duty of presiding officers to protect all members, and specifically members who are busy exercising oversight over the executive. The rules, the essence of the rules is that we must treat one another with respect, and in that sense, it is important that we make use of the rules and do not abuse the rules to engage with ministers outside of what the rules allow for in question sessions. So that's a general reminder to all members. And certain statements would not only be disrespectful, but would certainly be unparliamentary and call for a substantive motion. In the current situation, Hansard has made it clear that the Honourable Skosana did use the words, "we won't tolerate racism." That, however, is not a direct reference to the Minister, and as a consequence, I will not ask the Honourable Skosana to react further or to withdraw. That concludes this question session. The time allocated has expired. I request members to stand and wait for the chair and the mace to leave the chamber. It concludes the business for the day. The House is adjourned.